Made with Spoken.
The Prophecy of Mother M. Angie Storm, U9 West, Crescent Region. Who invited her? I asked Miss Sissy as Mother M ducked through the doorway. Someone important, Sissy grunted, then lit her pipe. A priest at a ceremony is never good news, even if they are from the new church. You sure public safety didn't send her to snoop? Nope, she's cool. Sissy winked at me. Relax, Angie, you'll see. Sounded like Sissy had some inside information, but I wasn't buying it. A few years ago, just after Tropical Storm Michael, when things were starting to get more heated than usual in the deep outside, the Dome Public Safety Authority bribed priests to spy on people. Guess the authority was afraid deep outsiders would finally get wise and torch the dome. Plenty people got arrested and detained on spurious charges. Mother M was generally thought to be cool, like Sissy said, but you never could be too careful. Miss Sissy passed the pipe. I took a hit and watched Mother M take off her helmet, then step out of the outer layer of her has-suit and hang both on a hook. She had several suits, some more sedate than others. On this one, the outer layer was a deep garnet, the official color of the Knights of the New Star, probably church-issued. The underlayer was a silvery white unitard thing with multiple zippers and long sleeves, and it hugged every curve. She sat on the floor to take off her socks, then ran her fingers through her rapturously long locks. The room was full of people staring while earnestly pretending they weren't. Staring might have been rude, but it was almost impossible not to. Mother Magdalene towered over everyone, had the body of an especially voluptuous elite soldier, and a face like a dark chocolate angel. Sissy always said Mother M was what Michelangelo's Pietà would look like if you stripped her naked. A fiercely holy Amazon who wouldn't take any shit. See? Sissy said as I passed back the pipe. She's wearing white. She's trying to fit in. She could have worn something a little less revealing. That's part of the has-suit, Sissy explained. A second layer of protection. Makes sense. After all, we are in Upper 9 West, the cosmic armpit of the Crescent. And why pack extra clothes when you don't have to? Besides, if you weren't so gay for her, what she's wearing wouldn't make a difference. I'm not gay for her, I said. Yeah, you are, Sissy teased. But don't stress about it, she's hot. Meanwhile, Mother M sat on the floor taking in the sights. I remember when she first arrived in the Crescent. She celebrated her first Mass on All Souls' Day. The new Catholic cathedral in the 6th Zone was packed, standing room only. Everyone wanted to get a gander at the new lady priest like she was some long-extinct exotic animal the Dome Zoo had just cloned. She chose to say Mass in Latin, and in that husky, sing-song African accent of hers, it sounded like a magical incantation. You half expected the second coming to happen right then and there, simply because she'd chanted it into being. Plus, for those who could actually see her, the visuals were stunning. Black on luscious black. Black Madonna, said the old man next to me, weeping. Truly one of the Lord's chosen. She'd done good by the Crescent, too. She'd started a couple of schools, cleaned up the homeless shelters, kicked out much of the corrupt old guard. She ran a tight and righteous ship. Still, a priest on our turf? It didn't sit well with me. It felt like she was slumming, getting a bit too familiar. Miss Sissy suddenly extinguished her pipe, stood, then ambled over to greet her. I reluctantly followed. Mother M was still seated on the floor with her back against the wall. She looked up to acknowledge our presence. She didn't have to look up far. Even standing, we didn't dwarf her by much. Evening, Mother M, Sissy said. The priest held a finger to her lips. No Mother M here, she whispered. I don't want people to get spooked. She then directed her gaze to me. Her eyes were such a deep brown they were almost black. Like your friend here who thinks I'm a spy. She extended her hand in my direction. It would have been rude not to offer mine in return. As I did, I felt a burst of energy. She had the sight. She was strong, and knew I had the gift too. Nice to meet you, Angie Storm, she said. Your son Zayden attends the G&T school in the 4th Zone. He's brilliant. I blushed with a mother's pride. I was surprised she knew my name. Then she thought to me, Papa Jocco was the one who invited me here. I was astounded. She'd sniffed me out that fast. You read me? I asked. You're a hard person not to read, she said aloud. Your suspicion carries. I heard it the moment I walked in the door. I finally let her hand go, not that it really mattered. She was strong enough to read without touch. I'm so sorry, Mother M. Magdalene, she corrected. I finished my thought. But we've been burned before. I know, she solemnly acknowledged, which is why I've always been reluctant to accept Papa Jocco's invitations. How long has he been after you to come? Miss Sissy asked. Mother M smiled. Almost since I arrived in the Crescent. Just then Papa Jocco appeared, and Mother M stood to her full height. The two of them embraced like long-lost friends and planted kisses on each other's cheeks. Mother M had to bend slightly to kiss Jocco, which was a strange thing to see because he was far from a small man. He wasn't too much shorter than she was and was nearly as wide as he was tall. So you two have known each other for a while? I asked. Why, yes, replied Papa Jocco. We spent some time in Florida together. That I'd rather forget, Mother M added with a smile. Jocco pouted flirtatiously. So now you're saying you'd like to forget me? Mother M lowered her eyes. I think she was also blushing, but her skin was too dark to tell. No, dear Jocco. I'll keep you in my heart forever. Florida, though, was an unholy nightmare. Agreed, Papa Jocco said, smiling. Not that the Crescent's a sweet bed of roses. But there is hope for the Crescent, said Mother M. Florida? I'm not so sure. I'm so glad you think we aren't hopeless, Miss Sissy chimed in. Somebody has to. Papa Jocco frowned. He didn't like that sort of negativity so close to the start of ceremony. He linked arms with Mother M and escorted her around the room making introductions. As soon as the two of them were out of earshot, Miss Sissy whispered, You think they were lovers once? I shrugged. Maybe, although she doesn't seem like Jocko's type. He usually goes for those sweet, dainty things he can keep under his plump little thumb. Well, if they were, you know what that means. Sissy grinned suggestively. What does it mean? I asked. Papa's seen the Pieta naked, and me and Sissy both got a severe case of the giggles. The steady beat of a bass drum, the haunting ring of Jocko's ghost bells, and the pungent aroma of incense smelling of pine and scorched earth marked the official start of ceremony. All chit-chat immediately ceased, and we lined up 2 by 2 to enter the ritual room. Miss Sissy linked arms with me, and we took our places near the rear of the procession. Papa Jocco and Mother M led. I don't know how many of my fellow celebrants were distracted and dismayed by our statuesque visitor, but I certainly was. It's really bugging the hell out of you that she's here, Sissy thought to me. Yeah, I grudgingly admitted. Why? What's she done to you? Nothing. I just feel like something bad is about to happen. Mother M would not betray us, Sissy thought. Jocko has his reasons for bringing her here. Of course he did. Jocko did nothing without mulling it to death. People unfamiliar with our way thought it was totally spontaneous, that all you needed was some frenzied drumming, copious herb and booze, and a room of horny and gullible people, and the Loa would come. But no, it wasn't like that. Jocko had the whole thing down to a science. Like the whole drums and bells thing. There wasn't another houngan in the Crescent who did that. Papa Jocko had smuggled the ghost bells home with him after a stint in the army serving in the Beijing outer zones. They were antiques, worth beaucoup de credits, and he'd found them there just ripe for the plucking in a burned-out monastery. But wasn't that looting? Someone asked him once. Nope, Jocko replied without a shred of guilt. Wasn't anybody using them, and their music helped ease my weary mind. The bells had a ring like fog drifting through a valley. If you listened to them long enough, it felt like you had a head full of sky. Jocko's drums had the opposite effect. They bound you to the sacred earth. Kind of like gravity, but far sweeter, like when a lover pins you against the bed and thrusts deep inside. Papa Jocko thought you needed both to let the Loa in. Put your head in the clouds, plant your body in the ground, and your center will burst with light. Normally that's what happened, but it wasn't happening to me that night. Guess I was too busy keeping a wary eye on Mother M. No false moves yet, Like the rest of us, she swayed with the music, perhaps a bit stiffly, but at least she was, as Sissy said, trying to fit in. Jocko had moved some distance from her, eyelids aflutter, arms raised, gripping a fat white piece of chalk in his right hand. He swayed from side to side, dipping closer to the floor. When he sensed he'd gotten close enough, he drew Papa Legba's sign and made the invocation. Papa Legba, we beseech you to open the gates. Let the wise ones who wait beyond the veil come on in. I wondered which of the Loa would show. Jocko had a whole slew of gifts arrayed on the altar, from chocolates to jewelry to fine rum and cigars. Don't know how he managed to swing the credits to afford such elaborate offerings, and didn't exactly want to know either. But maybe public safety did. Maybe that's why Mother M was really there. The night wore on. The drumming got louder and faster, and the bells rang like a monsoon of liquid silver in my ears. The dancing grew more frenzied. Some people had even shed some of their clothes. And yet there wasn't that subtle shift in the air you feel when one of the Loa are about to descend. A quick glance at Mother M explained why. She was no longer dancing, but stumbling around like a bad drunk, holding her temples like her brain was about to explode. Her eyes were clamped shut, and she seemed to be mumbling to herself. Some spirit was knocking, wanting to borrow her body for a visit to the earthly realm, but she was fighting it. A stray thought drifted over. You think this is her first time? Miss Sissy asked. I didn't know where she was in the room. Everyone was bleeding into everyone else at that point. Maybe, I thought back. It can scare you if you're not really expecting it. Hell, it certainly scared the fuck out of me, and I thought I knew what was coming. Mother M continued her battle with the beyond, but she appeared to be losing. She stopped stumbling and squatted low to the floor, still holding on to her head for dear life. She had sweat stains all over her unitard, and sweat was practically raining from her forehead. She grunted like an ogre. Another stray thought drifted by. I think it was Jocko's. Don't fight him, Mother M. He has never failed you. So it wasn't her first time. Far from it. She must have decided to take Papa Jocko's advice because suddenly she sprang to her full height, grabbed her crotch, and laughed deep in her throat. Her eyes flew open and she surveyed the celebrants. Bonsoir, bitches, she proclaimed. Bonsoir to you, Papa Gédé, someone shouted enthusiastically, and then there was a chorus of raucous laughter. Et comment êtes-vous braves gens ce soir? Mother M asked in a booming voice. She sauntered over to the altar, snatched up a cigar, and placed it between her lips. A woman with a short honey-blonde afro ran up and lit it for her. Mother M took a few puffs, grabbed the woman by the waist, and danced with her for her trouble. Mother M might have been stiff before, but now she rode the music with a grace that was almost obscene. After she finished that dance, she grabbed an old top hat off a shelf and placed it on her head. By some miracle, it stayed put, even with all that hair. She danced with many of us. Sometimes the dancing was playful and childlike, like a game of Ring Around the Rosie. Other times it was a very adult combination of slow tango and bump and grind. She paused before she approached me. I thought she was planning another dance. Instead, she pinned me against the wall. By now, her bodysuit was completely soaked and see-through. She smelled raw, feral. With her right hand, she lifted my chin so I had no choice but to look into her eyes. I'd seen countless people possessed by the Loa, had danced with quite a few, and even been kissed once, but I had yet to look one dead in the eye. It was like having a staring contest with the infinite. I wanted to look away, but couldn't. She wouldn't let me. My God, you've got the whole universe in there. I'm not sure if I merely thought that or uttered it out loud, but in the end, it didn't matter, because she heard me. Oui, she whispered, smiling. She leaned even closer. Écoutez, ma fille, j'ai un avertissement pour vous. I'm listening, I said. Be kind to your son even when he makes you angry. My stomach knotted. I was not prepared for this to get so personal, and the warning seemed odd, irrelevant. Of course I was kind to Zayden. He was my breath, my soul. Now I didn't go overboard and spoil him, but that didn't make me mean. Why? I asked in a panic. Is there something wrong with him? Is he sick? She took her hand from under my chin and brushed away some hair from my forehead. The gesture was surprisingly tender. Non. She slowly backed away. Écoutez, she said again. She moved to the center of the room. Écoutez les gens, she shouted. The musicians cut the volume to a low rumble and everyone in the room gathered close. Une tempête est à venir, chaud, humide et plein de fondre, et après le déluge, tout va changer. So a storm was coming, huh? That was hardly news. Storm was the Crescent's middle name. We simply shoveled up the mud, cobbled our lives back together, and moved on. So what if we wound up with less and less? Outsiders were used to having next to nothing. Domers et outsiders devraient faire face à ennemi commun. Une peste avec les yeux. Domers and outsiders will face a common foe? Yeah, right. I'd believe that when I saw it. Domers lived in their private, pre-programmed paradise. Outsiders lived in the muck the Domers made. And the second part made absolutely no sense. Since when do plagues have eyes? I was beginning to wonder just what was in that cigar she was puffing, and I'm sure other folks were too. But Mother M preached on, the veins in her neck bulging, her voice rising and falling with the muted drums, desperate and wild as Ezekiel in the town square. You got the feeling that if she didn't see this thing through, she'd die. Le Crescent devra sauveur nombreux, un de chaque génération. D'un vieil homme qui parle la langue des arbres à un enfant à la peau pâle comme de la glace. The Crescent will have many saviors, one from every generation. Okay, so she was predicting an equal opportunity revolution, not just a bunch of restless children on a lark. I hoped at least that part of her prophecy was true. We needed all the help we could get so we could finally have some good change that would stick. But who the hell was the old man who spoke the language of trees? Not that it mattered, since the Crescent had almost none, old men or trees. And the child with skin as pale as ice? More beautiful nonsense, but at least it was poetry. Un pont unir les deux mondes. Elle ne sera pas craindre la mort, car elle le connaît bien. A bridge will unite both worlds. She will not fear death because she will know it well. A liaison, I presume? But who the hell would that be, and where would they come from? Domers and outsiders didn't mix, except for those outsiders lucky enough to be butlers and nannies or work in the hydroponic farms. And I suppose you could count the Dome Youth Volunteer Corps, do-good Domer children who volunteered in outside hospitals, schools, and homeless shelters so that they'd have some community service credits to put on their college applications. I'd worked with a few Corps kids at the 9th Zone Emergency Center. Most of them were well-meaning and earnest, but blanched at the sight of blood, and there was plenty of that, too much, on the outside. Croyez-moi les gens, nous allons vivre un âge d'or. Believe me, people, we will experience a golden age. And with that, it was over. Mother M tipped her hat to the crowd and bowed. Some folks clapped while others simultaneously laughed and wept with joy. I could understand why. A new golden age. With just the stirring music of her voice, Mother M could almost make you believe. Never mind that people had been trotting out that same tired miracle ever since the first eyeless shrimp appeared in the bayou. The Loa could be pranksters, and sometimes they had their fun at our expense. After Papa Gédé's message was delivered, Mother M swooned and fell to the floor. It was like a mighty tree had fallen. Speaking of trees again. Jocko rushed to his old friend's side. Then he closed the ritual and dismissed us all. Most of us went when we were told, but I stayed behind while Miss Sissy waited for me in the front room. Mother M was still on the floor, her breathing labored. Jocko was seated beside her, stroking her forehead. Yeah, I thought to myself, they definitely were lovers once upon a time. Is she going to be all right? I asked, sounding far more worried than I thought I was. Yes, Miss Angie, she'll be fine. She said something about Zayden. That's between you and Papa Gédé, Jocko said, cutting me off. He looked down at Mother M affectionately and wound the end of one of her locks around his finger. Then he added, Really, You shouldn't be so suspicious. U9 West is cruel enough. Try not to let it harden your heart. And remember, Papa's view of time is long. He sees it all. I hung around for a while, waiting for Jocko to say something else, but he was done talking. I heard nothing but Mother M's wheezing. I went to the front room and suited up. I was tempted to call the babysitter and ask her to check on Zayden, but decided that would be stupid. He'd be asleep, and then I'd want her to wake him up just to be sure he was okay, which would only make him cranky for the rest of the day. Just what I didn't need on my day off. So what did Jocko say? Miss Sissy asked. A whole lot of nothing, I muttered. We donned our helmets, then stepped through decon into the wide, toxic world. Dawn was just breaking in U9 West. Well, as much as it could. I hadn't seen a proper sunrise since I was in kindergarten. The thick mist simply glowed a little brighter, and the color depended on what poison was ascendant in the air that day. Most of the time, daybreak was a muddy grayish green. But this morning was different. The air felt lighter, as if we'd had a cleansing rain, and the mist glowed golden. Except for the hazard gear and the dead and dying buildings, U9 West almost looked like a soft focus heaven. It was such a rare occurrence. Everyone at the shuttle stop was buzzing about it, snapping pictures with their phones for prosperity. A golden age. This wasn't it. Hell, maybe it was never coming. But for now, it would have to do.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.